The 26th of April 2043. Server Beta. Los Digiangeles. After a period of time, Matthew took Locomon to the Undercity to collect data packets and just think about everything. Matthew still was anxious regarding his predicament. He had a Digimon he had zero ability to control, and then a Digimon who was basically forced into being his partner. This was a complete sludge show, if not for the support cards and Galmon's willingness to help. The support cards, according to Gwen's lessons, will be key to providing Galmon the support he needs to take out their opponents, but the chances of it actually turning out, they were impossible, absolutely impossible. Black War Grey Mon wasn't going to help him and had made that clear several times. If he would help, then Matthew would probably end up a silver-ranked tamer by the end of the month, but that's not in the cards. Granted, Matthew did want to do things the proper way, build from the bottom to the very top of the team. However, he might not even get to join if he loses. At least he finally had a small amount of money in his terminal after rounding up data packets. Maybe if things don't turn out, he can scrape together enough money for acting lessons. The next morning, Matthew just needed a moment, a few minutes, to look out upon the city skyline and contemplate what would happen today. How could things get worse? Or maybe how could they get better? He did end up with a Black War Grey Mon after all. His partner was an experienced fighter. Maybe he might fail this time, but next time he could come back stronger. Morning, Matthew. A big day today, eh? I believe in ya and that blue-hair troublemaker. Speaking of which, did he ever get back? What do you mean, Strawby Mon? Also good morning. Did he leave? Hey, thought he told why. Well, he said he'd be back by morning, so let's hope he didn't pack his bags and run. Matthew was about to have a panic attack. He can't have the one reliable thing he has in this suddenly leave him. Honestly, he doesn't even know if he could enter with Black War Grey Mon, but that's when there was a knock on the apartment door. Opening it, still in his pajamas and just not ready for more trials, he got something thrown into his face. It was a gift? And it was from Gaomon. We are in luck, Gaomon said with a big grin, though he looked really beat up, not quite as bad as yesterday but still bad. Gaomon, are you okay? Don't worry about that, open the box. Without further encouragement, Matthew did so and just stared in shock as the data flew into his digi-terminal. Inside it was a good amount of digi-coin. It was enough to get a good start on anything they wanted to do, and alongside a new pair of goggles. Putting them on, they didn't really fit his head so good, however. Thanks, man, but how did you? Don't worry about it, but we have an ace up our sleeves for the tournament. Let's get going. Whoa, no. First we are getting you looked at. You look like you got hit by an angry monochroman. Gaomon took a minute from the wording. Maybe he did get hit by an angry monochroman asterisk. Fine. But if we are late, it's not my fault. Gaomon seemed to get angry quickly as he entered the apartment, though luckily as they started to get ready they both lighten up. Matthew just looking at himself. He was used to looking like some kind of gogglehead but didn't want to deny Gaomon's gift. Strawby Mon's report regarding Gaomon was that he would survive, a minor spell being cast to help Gaomon regenerate as they made it to the arena, which was an elevated island in the sky. Getting up there was actually easier than traveling across town on a Locomon. You just needed to head to the center of town where there were relays. The Night Mon would take it from there, sending your data across the server to the arena in one piece. It was a scary process, but, well, every other tamer doing it looked confident, unafraid, ready for the next step. Some had pins on their collars, each one a different metal: gold, silver, bronze, and platinum. Guess everyone wanted to know the up-and-comers. Speaking to a Monday, Matthew got to work getting the paperwork and information out of the way. Matthew needed to take a moment for it. His partners? No one. Was of course Gaomon, but his number. Too well, that was Black War Grey Mon, but should he actually put him in? Should he ask? Or should he let it be a surprise? Struggling, he just put down Black Agumon. It was the truth. Black War Grey Mon was once a Black Agumon, so maybe it would be fine? And then his Navi Digimon, the Digimon that would handle his affairs and such. Essentially a manager. He wrote down Strawbymon as he was told. One day Strawbymon wanted him to get a more dedicated Navi, but till then Strawbymon would deal with those matters. Strawbymon was a good guy, really went above and beyond for Matthew. After putting in the paperwork, he was guided to a waiting room, the room dedicated to Team Fireheart. Across the way from them was another team's waiting room, but they weren't going to be involved in today's tournament. Inside the room were some tough-looking tamers and their Digimon. His digi-terminal lighting up each time he looked at one, allowing him to see what they had on file. Maybe it was a good thing he didn't put down Black War Greymon, or he'd look silly. Looking over the crowd, he noted a few people. There was Kitty. She had 2 Gatomons as her partners, which meant she was walking in with the greatest advantage, 2 champion-level Digimon. She was wearing a sweater that had the logo of Silversmith on it. She must be from the other city or have family there. Her brown hair was covering a small yellow headband, and she seemed a bit familiar. Then there was Edwin Clark, who had a Bearmon and an Agumon. The resemblance to his own team was shocking. Honestly, what Matthew would have went for had everything with Gaomon not happened. Not like he was complaining. Edwin seemed well dressed for this tournament, wearing some higher quality tamer gadgets and brands from celebrities. His hair was red but had blue highlights at the end that reminded Matthew of Gaomon. Gaomon himself was looking over the competition unimpressed. I've fought Numimon with more backbone than half these Mons. Semifinals Matthew, semifinals. Gaomon promised, clenching his fists and smiling, in his element clearly. Don't get cocky, you have to beat us first. From behind Matthew someone sitting down spoke. They were a black-haired boy of Asian heritage, their partners a Ryudamon, the scarlet ruby on its forehead gleaming, and a grinning Floramon who had the look of a Digimon who wanted to rip Matthew's throat out alongside his hard-earned money. Overall 2 strong Digimon, they would be difficult to beat. The boy, standing up to fix his wrinkled vest and tuck in his shirt, then pointed to a floating holographic screen. There it showed the match cards as it was being updated. Matthew would face Genki in a forest field. Just guessing that sounds beneficial for the Floramon. I see, good luck then Genki, we plan to win though. Matthew wasn't going to talk trash first, it would be pretty embarrassing to do so and lose, plus Gaomon's potential wasn't fully known yet. I'd be scared if you plan to lose, may the best Mon win. The 2 shook hands before Genki took his team to a booth to review combos, something Matthew took as a good idea and did the same, sitting in front of the girl named Kitty in order to do so. The seating was mostly full already, and most people either knew each other or had some form of arrangement set up regarding where they sat, which just left room with that Kitty girl. The 2 Gatomons, one black, the other white, were sleeping on the table in front of him, but that was fine. He didn't plan to bother them. You mind if me and my partner goes over strategies? Matthew whispered to her, not sure if he was even heard over the holographic screens talking about the matchups. It was all basic information anyway, so it's not like he had to pay attention. Each match had random fields, each contestant had some form of backstory being spoken about, and the Digimon were being compared. Oh, of course not, just don't wake the Gatomons, they get kind of catty when sleepy. The girl gave him a big friendly smile after her pun and just relaxed to listen in, the tax for sitting with her he guesses. Most likely she'd win anyway, so there wasn't much harm in her knowing. Alright, so Gaomon, here is the deck. Thoughts that immediately jump out to you? Well, we should leave our unique card in our hand for as long as possible, even if our deck refreshes after each match. The more matches that it's not revealed, the better. Then there are these ones. He pulled out 2 cards, Reload and Gargomon's blasters. Together I'll be able to suppress a target with a lot of fire. Or I can get up close to pummel them. We could combine it with this. Matthew would show him the option card Metal Coat. It would turn you into a tank that would allow you to shrug off hits long enough to get in close for a pummel. It would slow me down. Gaomon growled. Remember, that's our lifeline, I have to stay fast out there. Especially since that Ryudamon is all about taking hits and dealing them back. How can you tell? Its stance. It keeps its legs spread to distribute force from its sides. If I was trying to harass it, I'd attack from its blind spots, which are its sides. Can't go in from the front cause it'll rip me apart, and its back is a massive shell. No way I can knock it out in one hit, so I have to pester it till it's too tired to fight. And if you get tired first? Good point. This card, Life Force, I can use Phoenixmon's flames to sap its strength and rejuvenate. Keep the pressure on and get back into the fight. Alright. Anything else? What about that Floramon? I'll take it out first. At most we can rely on Pepper Breath and Danger Sting. Both elemental attacks should overwhelm it. Alright. Something tells Matthew that they can't underestimate the Floramon when it was on home turf, and especially cause their opponent was going to be focused on Gaomon. Taking a moment to make sure they were all refreshed, they watched the two matches before theirs and then went out to battle Genki. Walking on the next relay, they were sent to the field, and it was a little intimidating as they walked out onto the field. All around them was a full arena that was cheering them on. It was full of hundreds of different Digimon types. Most were angelic, however some were beast, bird, and dragon. The large holographic screens zoomed in on the gold and platinum tamers in attendance, one of course being the leader of Team Fireheart, the movie star Victor Armstrong, and across from him on the other side of the stadium the leader of the rival team Soul Talon, Castor Blakewell. Another leader was in attendance too, Sayo of Team Nightclaw, who seemed very excited and Matthew could have sworn winked. Behind them was all three of their partners, most notably Armstrong's Achillesmon, Blakewell's Shizmon, and Sayo's little Lunamon, who was sitting on top of her Mirage Gaugamon. Maybe seeing a rookie of one of her partners meant Sayo was rooting for him, who knew? The announcers suddenly boomed as both Genki and Matthew were introduced. They were then told to go into the forest. Wandering around the forest, it was pretty different from the streets and dark corridors Matthew was used to, and to him everything felt realistic. His Digivice D5 beeping as it entered a combat mode. 5 cards flew out of the Digivice and a single holographic panel for him to put them on. By putting a card on the panel, it would disappear and Gaomon would absorb its power for the match. It was kind of like one of those old card games, and after a Digivolution he could fill his hand with cards. You smell anything, Gaomon? They are close. We entered bat. Suddenly Gaomon had to grab Matthew and pull him into cover as suddenly several trees near them were blown apart by a Terra Blast from Ryudamon. I'll look for the Floramon, you distract it. Matthew ordered Gaomon and quickly ran out from behind the tree stump they hid behind. He was looking for a red bulb. How hard would it be? It proved harder than Matthew hoped as he watched Gaomon preform hit and fades against the well-armored Ryudamon. Terra Blast after Terra Blast were fired at Gaomon till basically every tree in the area was smoking lumber. Ryudamon. Good job, take this. Genki slapped a card against his panel and suddenly in Ryudamon's little hands were little blasters that he started to fire at Gaomon. The blasts were extremely plentiful and fast, tagging Gaomon and burning his fur coat as he tried to avoid them, seemingly caught off guard by the sudden swap. Matthew. The Floramon ain't here. Help me out here. Gaomon barked and Matthew quickly scanned the cards for an option. Gaomon needed something to take the heat off of him. He had the Gargomon blasters, Angemon wings, Metal Coat, and Wargreymon shield at the moment. Due to Gaomon's distaste for Metal Coat, he sacrificed the Wargreymon shield to give Gaomon the massive shield that deflected the incoming projectiles and allowed Gaomon to rush in with it. Ryudamon then getting another card power-up and punched the ground. Rock to mud. The sudden appearance of the mud under Gaomon's feet led to him slowing down tremendously. As the shield started to fragment and crack from a renewed barrage of Terra Blast's weeds and vines suddenly started to wrap around the pinned-down Gaomon. No black Agumon in the area. The Floramon reported to the other tamer from the tree branches, "Sneaky thing. Great. Let's finish this." Floramon rain of pollen to distract Gaomon. Out of the Floramon's mouth came a flood of yellow particles that swarmed Gaomon, and suddenly he seemed to get sluggish behind the now destroyed shield. As Ryudamon then lunges at Gaomon, and out of its mouth shot a giant metal cannonball at Matthew's partner. Thinking fast, Matthew slammed the metal code card into the holographic panel, then followed it up with the Gargomon blasters. Flinching and looking away till he heard the crowd gasp and cheer. Gaomon was covered in chrome Digizoid that let him catch the cannonball as the blasters started to form around his Digizoid-reinforced hands. "All right. I admit I was wrong. Metal Gaoga pummel." Gaomon lunged into the Ryudamon's space and slammed the wrist cannons under Ryudamon's chin and unleashed a flurry of pellets with surprising speed. Even while covered in metal, Gaomon was still much faster than even he thought. As the Ryudamon glitched and crumbled onto the ground, he disappeared into Genki's D5, leaving just the Floramon. The Floramon still seemed confident and happy as Gaomon looked tired as he started to charge towards her while firing the Gargo pellets from the wrist cannons. They all knew both cards' effects were about to disperse if Matthew didn't activate a reload, which he hadn't drawn. All he had left were Angemon Wings and Dark Digivolution. Neither would particularly help with Gaomon being so weighed down and tired. Floramon, stay back from the Gaomon and let the armor weigh him down. Here. Speed boost. Slapping down the third card, Genki's Floramon suddenly was faster than the weighed-down Gaomon, the Gargo pellets having a hard time tagging her now. Gaomon. Pull back and rest. Don't engage. Matthew ordered his Digimon as the Floramon wasn't going to go down from the pellets and Gaomon would just run out of ammo. So once Floramon decided it wanted to play ninja and Genki ran off to find it, Matthew kneeled down to plan with Gaomon. "We are down to Dark Digivolution and Angemon's Wings. Can't redraw? You'd need to Digivolve. It's too early for that." Gaomon was clearly torn regarding it, and the metal coating on him fell apart. Taking a moment to rest both of them, they heard the crowd gasp and cheer, meaning something very bad just happened. After a few moments they saw it. Floramon had Digivolved into Kiwimon and was charging them, it at least lightly wounded from earlier battle but clearly still fast. "And now? It's our only choice. Use Angemon's Wings and enjoy the show." Gaomon then marched in front of the raging Kiwimon. Matthew, using their last card and giant white wings, would then sprout out of Gaomon's back, Kiwimon's partner having refreshed on cards due to the Digivolution, meaning that they had the distinct advantage. Gaomon was hunched close to the dirt and was using the wings to conceal his relatively small body, as Kiwimon opened its mouth to shout "pummel peck." Mid-sentence, Gaomon slapped it with a wing before doing a massive leap with the wings to assist. The most shocking part as he did, Gaomon was glowing white hot and in the middle of the air, in full view like a star. Gaomon roared. Gaomon Digivolved to Gaogamon. And then plummeting towards the earth was the massive blue wolf with the strength of a bear, Spiral Blow. As Matthew redrew the cards in his hand, he watched as his partner shot a tornado down upon their foe, sending the Kiwimon through a tree before disappearing into Genki's D5. And your winners, Gaogamon and Matthew Harper. With the match over, Matthew and Genki were shuffled back to the waiting room, where after exchanging compliments Genki left. Matthew promptly reviewing the report. Genki's signature option card was called Cocoon, which in exchange for taking time it digivolved a Digimon. If Genki had used that when Floramon was looking for Black Agumon, then Gaomon would have been toast, but it was over. For now. There were still 3 more matches left for Matthew and Gaomon. Reviewing the previous matches, it looked like Kitty won her match in a minute, her Gatomons just overpowering their opponents. Edwin Clark's Digimon both ended up digivolving to their champion forms, Tyrannomon and Moosemon. However, only one was natural. The Burman used the Digi Metal of Hope. Their next opponent was named Buck Rogers, and his partners were an Imp Mon and Command Draw Mon.